Hi, this is Gail Nettles with Beaded Jewelry Diva. Today's project is going to be this herringbone bracelet made with the Czech Superduo beads. These are 2-hole beads and they're fairly new to the market. They're a lot of fun to look at, they're very pretty, but how the heck do you use them? Well, here's one way to go ahead and use them in this herringbone bracelet. Here are the supplies that you'll need for this bracelet. You'll need some Superduo beads. These are a color called chalk travertine. It's kind of cool because they're mottled color. These are some size 11 seed beads. This particular color is called turquoise colorline clear. You'll need some magatama beads. These are bronze color. You probably can use some Miyuki drops as well. I haven't tried it with the drops, so I suggest the magatamas to begin with. You'll need a clasp. I am using a magnetic clasp, as you can tell, because it's stuck to the needle. One size 11 beading needle. I like size 11s because they're very versatile. I usually can get into the places I need, but it's big enough for me to see the thread when I thread the needle. Pair of scissors. And today I am using some spider wire. This is fishing thread. Normally I use fire line, but I ran out of the white crystal fire line, so I swiped my husband's spider wire. So let's go ahead and get started with this bracelet. We're starting out by stringing on a stop bead, and a stop bead is just any bead that is not the same as what you're going to be working with. And by the way, I've strung on, at this point I have only about 4 feet of the beading thread on. I really suggest that you use about 6 feet of beading thread on this. You can go ahead and add it while you're working. It's not that much of a problem, but I'm using a shorter amount just for demonstration purposes so that I don't get too tangled. Okay, for the stop bead, I'm going ahead and I'm running up my needle up again, so it makes like a nice little ending. The little bead isn't going anywhere. I suggest you have about at least a foot for the tail. You want a long tail because you're going to use this side to go ahead and attach half the clasp. So to begin, you want to pick up 2 Superduo beads. Doesn't matter which hole, I mean they end up being the same. Doesn't really matter. Okay, you've got 2 Superduo beads. Run it to the end. So now you've got 2 beads on. You're going to take your needle and run it up through the top bead. That's the same bead where your thread is coming out of. You want to do it through the top. And then go ahead and put on 2 more of the Superduos. So you've got 2 more on your needle, and you want to run it up through the top hole of the other bead. And you've got something that definitely looks like herringbone. Yay! Okay, so now you've got to step up to the next hole, and so that we hide our thread somewhat, I'm going to string on 3 of the size 11s, put it through the top hole of the Superduo, run it on through, so it makes like a little picot of sorts. Okay, next thing would be to pick up 2 Superduo beads, run it through the top hole of the other bead in your pair, and you've got another herringbone. Once again, you're going to go ahead and string on 3 more of the size 11s. So 3 more of these up through the top hole. Pull it on through and try to keep this snug as you're working with it. The thread isn't going to show very much if you keep it real snug, but if you slack off on some, you're going to see some of the thread showing. Okay, one more time for good luck, and you're ready to go ahead and keep adding on beads in this fashion. You're just going to make this as long as you need to. So for a 7-inch bracelet, it takes about 10 grams of the Superduo beads to go ahead and make a 7-inch bracelet. Okay, I have gone ahead and made my bracelet the length I want it. And as you can see right now, it's really kind of pretty, and you can just go ahead and leave the embellishments just as is. Here's a little bit closer up shot. If you like it like this, you don't need to do any further embellishments. You can just go ahead and add the clasp on each end and you're done. But I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like with a little bit more in the way of embellishment. Now either way, adding the clasp is going to be the same. So let's go ahead, and if you don't have at least 3 feet of thread left on your needle at this point, go ahead and end your thread and start up a new one, because you will be going all the way around this for the embellishment. So you really do kind of want to have a bunch of thread on your needle. So for the clasp, what you do is, I'm at the very end, my thread is coming out of the top Superduo. I'm picking up one size 11, my clasp, and I'm just, I've got them both, attached at the moment. You don't have to, but I've got the clasp, and I've got another size 11, and I'm running it through the top of this next Superduo. So basically, instead of adding another set of Superduos, all I'm doing is adding the size 11, the clasp, and the size 11. So there you go. Now I'm going to eventually end up running through this several more times, but what I'm doing right now is I'm going to go ahead and start the end, or start embellishment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 3 of the Superduos, 3 of the size 11s, I'll get that right. And my size 11s are just not cooperating with me today. Not only are the Superduos having closed holes, but my size 11s are as well. Okay, 3 size 11s, and I'm putting them through the first set of 11s. So what I'm doing is I'm connecting the top one to the first set of size 11s. Okay, now I'm going to pick up 2 of the Magatama beads, and I'm going to go ahead and run it up through the next of the sequence of 3 size 11s. So it looks like this. So I'm exiting the next set of size 11s, so once again I'm going to pick up 2 Magatamas, slide my needle through the next one, pull the thread on through tight, and you see what pattern that is showing up. You're going to do the same thing all the way down your bracelet. Okay, so I'm back at the opposite end. You can see that this is the end that had the stop bead. It's where I started. I'm going to go ahead and pull off the stop bead for right now. Set it aside. Okay, so we need to go ahead and attach the clasp to this end, and we also need to firm up this end. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and I want to go ahead and add beads up here so you don't see the thread. So I'm going to pick up 2 beads. So 2 beads is all you need. Oh, and I've got another one of those size 11s that's driving me crazy. Let's try again. Okay, oops. That time I got 3. Alright, we'll get this right. So, 2 seed beads, and I'm running it through both beads of the end. Coming out of the other end of the end bead. So this is the side that I just put on those 2 seed beads. Now I'm going to pick up 2 seed beads, the other half of the clasp, and then 2 more seed beads. And then I'm going to run it back through this first Superduo. So I've got it going through here. So what this is doing is it's making a little loop. Okay? So that's what it looks like. Now I've got to go ahead and attach this over to here and then keep on my pattern. But on the other side you can see I only had to do 2, and this one's going to need substantially more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2, just like I did before, and then 2 of the magatamas, and run it on through this next group. Missed a bead. There we go. So that's what it's like. So 2 beads, and then the 2 magatamas, and then run it up through this set. So at this point we're going to continue just the way we did on the other side. Here's where I've got up to this point. I have embellished both edges, so both of them are done. And now I have to work on reinforcing these. Now, if you noticed, I went ahead and ran my thread, down one side, added the clasp, and then up through the other side. Well, this isn't horribly secure at this point, because if one of these beads breaks or the thread breaks in one spot, they all come out. This next part of it is going to address some of that. But you see that right now I'm coming out of the top of these last set of seed beads that I put on before I started the clasp. So I'm going to go ahead and take, I only need, actually what I'm not even going to add another seed bead to this. I'm just going to go ahead and run it up through this hole, and so that's the top hole of the Superduo, back through the size 11, the clasp, and the other size 11. Since it's a magnetic clasp, it's giving me little fits. Okay. So now I'm back through the other end of the Superduo. I'm going ahead and running my thread back down until I reach the first of the magatamas, running my thread through both of them. Now at this point I'm going to tug on the thread a bit and go ahead and tighten it up, and tugging on the thread at this point is going to tighten up the entire thing. Okay, so it's coming out of one of the magatamas, and I'm going to go ahead and put my needle down through the Superduo next to it. So in other words, I'm pushing it down through, oops, let's see, I've got it coming down through these two, pulling it through, and this is going to be the start of securing it. So I'm going to go down through these two, and then I'm going to go around over to this side, and I'm going to run my needle up through all of these again. Doing this also helps to reinforce the clasp. So I'm going through the tops, And the clasp once again. It's the only thing about using these magnetic clasps, it tracks the needle. Okay. Down through the other Superduo. Down through these seed beads again. Through this next set, through the magatamas. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going. And I'll go through about another, probably another 2. So this one, and the next pair, or the next set. So through the magatamas, and once more I'm going to go down through to the Superduos. Might be a little bit difficult, you might have to kind of wiggle your needle a bit. So it's down through 2, up through 2, but this time, instead of going back around this way again, I'm going to switch and I'm going to come back this way. Now to do that, it's kind of like, okay, so where do I put my thread right now? What you would do, let me see, do I have a piece of thread caught here? Yep, I do. There we go. So what I'm going to do is take my needle and put it down through. So let's see if we can get a good shot of that. I've got it coming out of this one and I'm running it through the bottom of the other one. Now you're not going to see the thread because, for one, the thread is a real close color to the bead, and 2, the edging is hiding it. So I've got it coming out through there, bringing it through the matching Superduo, and then I'm ready to go ahead, bring it down 1, and then through the magatamas again, and you're off and running. So you want to go ahead and do that several times through the length of this. Okay, gotten all the way around the end, have reached the turnaround point, and if you noticed, when I was doing this originally, I had said to put 2 beads here instead of 3. Well, it turns out that even though I've done that on other bracelets where the 2 beads was sufficient, on this one I see there's a gap. So easily enough, I will go ahead and address that by putting in one more size 11 seed bead. So, you know, if you find out that you're missing a bead somewhere, it's easy enough to fix it as you're coming back through. Now, what I'm also doing every so often, as I'm doing this, and again I'm going to work my way up back, or up again this side, every so often I like to go ahead and put a half hitch knot in. And this again is just one more thing to help reinforce it. My favorite place to put the half hitch is between 2 magatama beads. So I'm coming out of this first one, I'm putting my needle underneath the thread that's holding the 2 of them together, drawing it up into a loop, putting my needle back through the loop, drawing tight, little half hitch knot. So in addition to doing the looping around, I'm also adding a few half hitches every so often. I finished off the other edge, so now this is my tail. So I'm going to go ahead and reinforce this clasp once again with the tail, and then I'm going to go ahead and bury the tail into the beads. And I'll show you how I do that. Okay, I have got my tail coming out of this Superduo bead right here. So I'm going ahead and running it up through the two beads right before, the two beads right before the clasp, then through the clasp, through the next bead, and down through the next two beads. I'm going to go ahead and run my needle back into the Superduo, into the other one, and the reason I'm doing this is because since this is the starting edge of my bracelet, it's fundamentally a little weaker. It doesn't have as much tension on it because you only had a stop bead. So what I'm doing is I'm adding some of that tension back to this end to make sure that it stays in place. So coming out of this Superduo, I'm once again going to go ahead and run through the clasp. And you want to pull a little tight here because you don't want your thread showing. So down, back, through, and this time I'm going to go all the way up through the magatamas. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into, so this will be the second magatama, or the second Superduo that I originally added, through it, through the bead right above it, through the bead right next to it, then back down through this one next to it. Then I'm going ahead and I'm skipping down to the bottom hole of this one. So in effect what I'm doing is I'm just making a round. I'm just, going around the whole thing. And this again helps to stabilize it. Okay, so I'm back to where I originally had entered. I'm going to go ahead and up through, up through this magatama. Sorry about that, I've been having some technical difficulties. Okay, I've run my needles up through, needle and thread up through this pair, this next set of three. Now I'm into this next set of magatamas, running it through both, doing a half hitch between the magatama and the size 11, up through the next three size 11s, and then I'm going to go ahead and go into the beads again, the Superduos. 1, 2, going to do a half hitch knot here, and my thread is short enough that I'm catching it when I do this. It pops out of my hands. Okay, did the half hitch down through the next two, up through the Superduo, another half hitch. Well, I guess not another half hitch. Oh, my thread is giving out on me. Here's our finished project. This is the single herringbone Superduo bracelet with magatamas for the embellishment and a magnetic clasp. This is a lot of fun to make. It works up very quickly. And if you've always wanted to give herringbone a try, but you weren't quite sure about it, this is an extremely easy introduction to herringbone. And even if you have done a lot of herringbone, this is a lot of fun to make. I said I was going to show you a couple of other examples. Here's an example of when I used the 4mm for the embellishment on the side instead of the magatamas. So, a little bit of a different look. And once again, I have a magnetic clasp in copper. Here's another example. This one is a double herringbone, and I've used the size 6 seed beads on the side for the embellishments. And I have a toggle clasp on this one. So a little bit different look. And I probably will go at some point and make a video on the double herringbone, but it's really basically the same as the single. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this project class making a Superduo herringbone bracelet. Please come on and visit me at www.beadedjewelrydiva.com, and also consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, and you'll know real fast when I have new videos up, because you'll get a little notification. Thanks again. Stop by and visit me, www.beadedjewelrydiva.com, and have yourself a great day. Bye.